Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Okay, another episode of the Welsh Yogi Podcast. So we're with His Grace Tarakanatha Misrani and Her Holiness Mother Misrani, and we are. So I mean, it's quite nice to speak to people who've started the sort of spiritual community in Wales, and we're going through like a rough timeline so far, wasn't it?
Yeah, rough in the loose sense of the word. Yeah, I mean, it's not chronological order, is it? We just kind of memories that are kind of coming up. We should, like we was talking, we have to maybe put it in chronological order at some point. It would be good to document it, but
Yeah.
for this purpose, I mean, for this podcast, it's just memories of.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
that's
good.
cool.
As you were talking and churning, I'll remember things like saying my memory's terrible, and
Because originally it was interesting. Because originally we thought, okay, we'll interview Mother Misrani about how she joined Krishna Consciousness, and that's the thing. I think when speaking to both of you, just talking about how you are practicing Krishna Consciousness, just your life. It's just so intertwined, isn't it, with just the starting of the yatra, right? Starting of the you can't really talk about ISCKON Wales without Tarakanatha Misrani, and you can't talk about Tarakanatha Misrani without talking about ISCKON Wales, right? So I think where we got to last, and I think it's also very interesting. We could go deep into as well is not only the sort of how did it happen externally, how do you create a center? Because I think we left off in maybe the Hyoka Center and the thinking about getting your own place and then looking at Govinda's. And then also...
Yeah, that came around because, remember, Shiv Ramaj was in Lanramni and he was dismayed. Here we are, this is preaching in Wales and we're on some, rough estate. And that was, what are we doing? And that kind of was like a jolt for me. Okay, yeah, what am I doing? It's kind of... So that's what I thought. I really made a conscious effort then, because we were like devotees were coming down. Sachinandan Prabhu was coming a lot at that time. He was from the Manor, but we wasn't really. It was at Sankirtan base, but it wasn't. So
here's a question for both of you, and why? Because why go through? Like you're saying, Shiva Maharaj is saying, okay, well, all your preaching Krishna consciousness in Wales is that you got this little place in. Or is it Lanramni you're saying?
Lanramni, yeah.
But why go through it? Because there's a lot of hassle in it to go for a yoga center, start a restaurant when you've never had experience of doing a restaurant before, a kitchen. So you're saying your guru tells you to do this. But then a lot of people practicing spiritual life might be like, well, why go through all that hassle? Why can't I just chant Hare Krishna and do,
Well,
why go through that?
You can do that. That's fine.
So, but why did you not do that? Why did you not?
Because my spiritual master wasn't pleased with what we was doing. And I just, I wanted to do something. And that's the basis of spiritual life, is to please, the authority, to please the guru. And he said, this is all we got. He wasn't go and open a center, go and do this. But I was just thinking, we need to do. That was the impetus for me then, that was an impetus. I should be doing something a bit more. And I felt I should be doing more, but I didn't. That was the impetus then that kind of propelled me forward. Okay, I should be doing something. And we was leaning to Swansea. So that's when we got the Aoka Centre then, and we started to look, because we was getting more of a support. Even though we were in Cardiff all the time, the support, our programs were kind of, seemed to be generating a bit, more of a limited success in Swansea. So that's why we started to go down there. When we started to look, that's when we started looking for the Aoka Centre. Well, we come across it, I can't even remember how we seen it. And it was just some little calf out of the way on the bottom of Constitution Hill. But it was cutting our teeth. As I said, we had no experience. We hadn't opened any, certainly hadn't run any cafes, opened any centres.
Who was the first cook? Was there a restaurant in the Aoka Centre?
It was one little kitchen. Yeah, we had a few. It was a real...
Were you a cook?
It was very small. It was like a combined effort. I think Marcel was around
at
that time. Gopinath didn't do so much there. He did more, didn't he, in Govinda's when that opened.
Gopi would have loved it. It was all wood. It was a Native American
Gopi
thing.
Gita,
it was all wood, and it was all. It was earthy. It was, and It was one small little kitchen. I mean, literally one. It was even smaller than a domestic kitchen. It was just, one side was the sink, and the other side, but you had the cooker and you just and you had like a meter between. So
And it was a cafe type thing?
yeah, we had. I can't remember how many seats to seat in. It must have seated.
If I was going to walk in there, who
about
could
8,
just-
it must have been about 10, 12, 15. It was only small, but we had enough.
who greets me if I come in then at the Oka Centre? I go back in the time machine now. I walk in the Oka Centre. Who says hello to me?
It was our nucleus. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, Tarakanatha was always like very, very strong with welcoming people. So when people used to come through the door, we'd welcome them nicely, like that, and show them to the seats.
Go on, Tarakanatha would be the welcomer.
He could be. Prema was there for a while. I was there.
Prema
Like
was,
that.
It was from that 96 festival, the nucleus, as I'm saying, from that festival came Misrani, Prema, and Gopinath. So that and I myself, we were the nucleus then. So Marcel was around at the time then. I think I can't remember. Marcel was there helping. He was helping cooking, doing a bit. So that was the nucleus. Although Marcel would orbit off, go around and come back. But
I mean, Marcel's one of the people you should definitely make sure because they're for Ty Krishna opening. And
yeah, for sure. No, he was prominent in the early days. Not for sure. Yeah, he was really a big help.
Yeah, Marcel showed me how to play the harmonium. The little bit that I learned.
Do you still play?
I haven't done for years, but I used to play with Tarakanatha. Just a few little tunes that we had.
That's right. Yeah.
I'll bring it back. Get Mother Misrani back on the harmonium, isn't it?
Like that. But yeah, going to Govinda's, why do it? But then that's what Sri Ramaraj wanted us to do. And it was a very intense time because I'd only ever been used to cooking for family, that sort of thing. There was one devotee up in London, Gauravani. She was the only person I could find that would share any recipes. And I used to, cook like that, but never done sort of like eggless cakes, anything like that before. So it was very intense, but I'm really glad that I had that experience. And Tarakanatha was always good at keeping me focused in what I was doing. Learning to do more than one thing at a time. It may be, that you're cooking in the kitchen, then you've got to go out and serve, like that, So it's like just doing the needful. That's basically what I felt I was doing, although I wasn't very good at anything particular,
It's far out, isn't it? It's such on-the-job training.
Yeah,
Because you guys didn't have anyone telling you what, like...
We didn't have, no.
What sort of guidance did you get? Who was
nothing.
there to...
We had absolutely...
We had the books, Great Vegetarian Dishes, Adi Raj's book.
Yeah, but that
Which you
cooking
can
is
buy
one-
from by contacting the Welsh Yogi podcast if anyone wants to buy a copy.
Cooking is one thing, but we to manage, open a restaurant,
Yeah.
and then I had to do. We was had to advertise what we was. So we didn't know nothing, absolutely, what we was doing. But as you said, we was learning on the job. We made certainly mistakes.
Prema used to take out flyers when he was out in Sankirtan. We used to do tasters and things like that.
I used to shut them because there was no customers coming in. As I say, let's go and do Harinam. So we closed the door and we'd go down. It's 24 of us. We just go down, do Harinam and come back. And then customers, it was like magic. People would then come. It was really, it was weird. Because we were sitting, because we were a bit offbeat, we wasn't. But you said who was meeting and greeting, or what? It was whoever was cooking. Someone was cooking, someone was serving, someone was washing. It was just us, a few. Prema was generally going out and doing Sankirtan, to help to finance the thing, to keep. And we was doing programs upstairs as well. Gopi.
So Gopi Gita is just asking, was it the first vegetarian cafe in Swansea?
I think it was. I mean, it was really.
You had that place up in the uplands, didn't you? Down to Earth, was it called?
I can't remember.
There's a tiny little vegetarian, vegan
Yeah,
cafe.
there wasn't much, but we was one of the first. If not, we was really, we was trailblazing in Swansea with vegetarian restaurants. But we was there for a year, and then Ruth was owner of the building. They wanted us to buy the place, and I didn't want to. Thought, no, this is too far out. So that's when we started looking at closer to town. And we went down it. I was looking for a building, and we seen the present Govinda's, which is closer to town, and it was for rent. And that's when we found it. And so I inquired about it, and they wanted to rent. Yeah, so I think we took a 12-month contract. Or was it a 3-year contract? Yeah, it was a 3-year contract.
We had the first year rent-free, though.
Or 5-year contract with a break after 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And then it was some building, office space. That's what it all was upstairs and down. It was just office space from the
Atlantic Business Systems.
yeah, something. Yeah, Atlantic Business Systems. Yeah. And so we went in, started to do, and then I went to and they give us 3 months. I said, can you give us, we need a few months, kind of give us 3 months rent to do the place. I can't remember what the rent was, but I said, give us 3 months. We didn't have any money. So we started to kind of, we'd have to go to Sankitan, collect the money, go start the work. When we run out of money, then, so 3 months wasn't no time. By the time we started kind of ripping everything out, ripping all downstairs. And then it was, remember Pete from we used to call him Buddhist Pete.
Yeah.
He kind of made our first altar upstairs in the room where we were upstairs. It was just one long room. And we sanded all the floor. But yeah, we worked hard, sanded it. So after 3 months come and we hadn't even touched the place practically. So I went back to the landlord, through the estate agents, and I said, can you give us another 3 months? So they said, okay. So then we were still working, going to start, because we didn't have no money, no one finances us. We had to go out on the streets and collect, get enough money to find volunteers, find anyone we could. There's only a few of us doing it all up. 6 months come and gone, and I said, can you give us another 3 months? Because it just wasn't, it was going that slow. And then I remember I was working downstairs doing the phone. Some guy was looking in, and I just called him in. I said, yeah, I want to come and have a look around. And I was explaining what we do in a vegetarian restaurant, and I was just telling him I was really open with the guy and everything. And then he told me he was the landlord, because he came down, because we was asking for all these, because I'd asked for another 3 months, and it was like 9 months free rent that this we'd had gone on for. And he happened to be a vegetarian as well. I think what was his name?
Roy Thomas.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Tom. He was a businessman from Swansea. Okay.
Yeah, it was lots of different properties.
Yeah, so I went back to him. I said, can you give us another 3 months? And this is like 12 months. And he said, listen, then some business offer. And he said, do you want to buy the place? That's what he said to me. Do you want to buy the place? I wouldn't normally do this. This is like a jewel in the crown, because he said it was one of his jewels in his crown, because he had properties over in the city centre, because they rent them, don't they? Because he was going into a venture at that time to opening Swansea Airport. So that was coming up in 2000. Well, it's failed since miserably, but so that's how we ended up buying that place.
And he gave it to us at a real good price.
Yeah, then he knocked the price. I think it was 90. It was up for
120 or
120, 130,000, and he gave it to us for 90,000. It's crazy, and that was a lot. So where did we find? We didn't have no money, so that we just, because we're still trying to do Swansea and Cardiff, still doing programs, and then because then all the supporting Swansea, then when we was going to buy the place, started to melt into the background a little bit, because they didn't want to commit then so much. But then it was Jagdish. Jagdish and Rashmi, they helped, and we found, they took us around, and because we had to get a 30,000, because it was no, that's what it was. It was from 150 to 130, something like that. No, 120. So he knocked 30 grand off the asking price, and then we had to get, I think it was a 30% deposit. So we had to get 30 grand. I can't even do the math, Gopi. I'm hopeless. That was a lot of money at that. I remember we had to raise 30 grand because it was a commercial property. It wasn't a domestic property. And we ended up getting a mortgage for 90 grand.
So what do you say? Some people would say, wow, this sounds like a lot. Like, I'm into getting into spiritual life, but when you're talking about like buying a property and taking on trying to raise money and doing, like you said, a lot of the support melted in the background, and people are like, well, I'm looking for spirit, but when you're talking about all of this, then hey, forget it. Like, I need to. This is too much anxiety. This is too much. You're getting into like almost a material kind of like opening a business.
Sounds familiar with Cardiff, right? With no backing, no support. No. But looking back, just as you were thinking, then I was just thinking. I remember I was probably looking. I didn't know it then, but I was probably having a meltdown, and I didn't even know it. I was having sleepless nights. I remember having sleepless because we had the Lord Mayor come in, and that was because
the building
with the front we had the frontage, took it all down, and then the guy who was it?
I don't know. We had to go out to the pub and get him out to finish.
Yeah,
it, didn't we?
We had to go to and brick the wall up, to brick the frontage. And all we had was a door frame and no wall. There was no frontage. And the Lord Mayor was coming the next day. So we had to go. The one guy couldn't do it, so he went to his friend who was in the pub on a Saturday afternoon. He pulled him out to the pub. Said, can he come and do it? We had to pay him extra. And then he bricked it up. So the cement wasn't dry overnight, so we had to kind of paint it. It wasn't happening. We had to be covered it with saris, just to hide all the brickwork. It's for the Lord Mayor was coming the next day. But yeah.
So why? What would you say? So why are you doing that for? What's the why behind it all? Got the how, but what's the why?
Well,
See what I mean?
Yeah, it was, it's because that's what was required of us by Sri Ramaraj. That's what he wanted. He wanted us to have a place, and there is nothing like doing devotional service. You don't get that buzz anywhere in the material world. I've lived outside, worked, and done all the stuff, but that buzz that you get from it, you just want more and more and more.
I mean, I guess for me, looking back, you have to be, I didn't realize, but you've got to be brave as well to go forward, to have that faith. You have to, doing it. We didn't know what we was doing. And the motive was just to please Krishna, to please Guru and Krishna. Well, there was no other motive, so he was relying on that. So, and then you had a success. Whatever the result is, that's a success in itself. Whether we just make the endeavor, the result then is up to Krishna. As long as we try in our best. If I'd known what it was going to entail, I probably wouldn't have, really. It's like I said, with the Cardiff, with the project, we started off just buying the property, then it was 160 grand was our first estimate just to do the place, and then it just kind of morphed into this thing that is now, is 5 million and counting. If I'd known what it was going to be, that big a project, it would have probably frightened me, would have frightened us off. I know it's too big a project, but Krishna has that way of doing it, like step by step. So you just go to the next step, and then Krishna, next step, keeps throwing us in. So that was we was just going on a journey. We didn't know where it was going. We just wanted to preach, to establish something in Wales. Well, I mean, that's where we live. That's where we're from. So that's just natural. It wasn't. We didn't need to go anywhere else. We live with local people.
Yeah, and then there was the beginning of, preparing the temple room, wasn't it? We had a temporary altar there, but then we wanted, to have nice sort of designs in that temple room. And Mahavidya, you got in contact with him, or he got in contact with us and asked if we wanted help.
I was, after we opened, I remember sitting, because the idea was based on what Prabhupada wanted. It was a restaurant downstairs, reading room, and a temple room. And we kind of had this loosely, we had a little, at the back, of the temple room, that was our reading room, but it still was kind of, and I remember sitting there, and next door is steak by night. And I was just sitting, I was getting a little disheartened because I was watching these bus loads of, it was like minibuses just going up and all going in there for these steaks, and it was really busy, And I think, why the heck? Why isn't Krishna sending these people? We're doing all this starting this endeavor, and then I think we got to do something. We can't do what it is, and that's when I thought, okay, we got to redo take it up next level, and that's when I said, okay, let's just rip this down and let's just build. Because actually, where we were, I remember Guru Maharaj Shiva Maharaj coming in when we did the opening. He was there, and he said, "This is." He called it like Trans-ISKCON at that time. So we was always trying to be, professional in our approach, not the usual, hippie.
The usual Hare Krishna movement.
Yeah, throw it together, and it doesn't matter what it looks like, and so.
Who's on the first altar? Do you have pictures of what deities?
Panchatattva.
Like before, the very first one, before you redid it,
Yeah,
before you had like a picture of
Panchatattva.
Which like the painting.
Yeah, where's up? Because that picture was the first one that we had in Cardiff, because that's where we had our first altar. Now you're triggering them. It was on, what's the name of the street? It was just off Newport Road, one of those side streets, because it was Bindu's place. It was Bindu's flats. They'd given it to him, and when he died. He put me down, I was just, and we used that. And it was, I think it was Abbey built, we constructed a little altar. I don't know if there's any pictures around. It was just a real simple altar. We had a picture of Panchatattva. It was like an A0 size picture with a, yeah, it was a picture. It was a picture of a painting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was an old picture of Panchatattva.
There's a quote where Prabhupada said, if you want to do deity worship, he said, all you do is keep a picture of Panchatattva in a drawer, take it out of the drawer, chant Hare Krishna in front of it, and then put it back in the drawer, and you'll go back to Godhead if you do that every day. Some people get elaborate deities and stuff. That's
where we started with a picture, and then we got deities to go in the Ty come, and then last time Panchatattva come in their foaming swans, but we had it was a picture of Panchatattva, and the altar was what it was similar to the altar we got, without not elaborate. It was just a wooden, because old Pete was a bit of a carpenter. He was a school teacher, but he was into Buddhism. We used to call him Buddhist Pete, and he constructed this altar and a Sringasan.
So Buddhist Pete, he was a teacher, right?
Yes,
he was my. He was
you were teaching in school.
He was my RE teacher. Cluin, yeah.
Yes,
Mr. Corellin, in Alpha.
He was instrumental in helping us. He was really yeah.
Because I met him on Sankirtan, and I said, "You used to be my RE teacher," and I said, "I'm a Hare Krishna now," and he was like, and then I spoke, and apparently, I didn't know that connection was there, but didn't he get blown out somehow or something? Didn't the devotees
he's always getting blown out with something. I don't know. But he helped a lot. He did. He was a nice person. Yeah, I don't know, but he couldn't give up his Buddhist ideas. He was really attached to being into Buddhism. I don't know. Some devotees have probably heavied him. I know.
He used to tell jokes and stuff in class, so maybe he was a bit. You probably got on well with him if he was.
Yeah, no, I got on well with him. I did get on well with him. Yeah, he helped us a lot. He was really instrumental. His skill set was it was carpentry. And even when we redone Govinda's again the second time, when they said, okay, we got to smash this, and I started just smashing the upstairs down, take this, we stripped it back, and Misrani and I thought, what the heck you doing? I thought we got to do something. After seeing so many people going into next door, into I wanted to just do something. And so it's like when you make that internal commitment, when you commit internally, then externally, the material energy then moves. It does that for every one of us. If you show you're committing, and then Krishna will help. You're committed. So we did that, and then Mahavidya Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple, and
he took sannyas, right? Is he Mahavidya Swami or?
He's dead now.
He died, but before he passed away, wasn't it?
No.
Who am I thinking of? Who was the temple president of Soho Street?
That's Mahavidya. Mahaduti.
Mahaduti. That's
you're thinking of Mahaduti. Yeah. No. Somehow we heard that he was creative, and he phoned me up. He said, "Hey, I heard you constructing a temple. Can I help?" And I said, "Yeah, definitely." Well, we didn't have a clue, but that's what I'm saying. When you make that internal commitment, if I hadn't made that move, probably still been sitting there now watching people go next door to steak by night. But I committed to doing something. Same as when Shiva Maharaj came and said that we need something. So the impetus then is, okay, it's an impetus to, it seems that we all, that's what happens in all our lives. There's an impetus for us to do something. And when you do something, Krishna or the universe then responds. Because you're putting something out there, you're making, people say, I'm putting out to the universe. But it's Krishna, that's just Krishna. Okay, Krishna, I'm making a statement of intent. I want to do something for you. You're going to have to help me. And then he does. That's when Mahavir phoned. He came down, he said, what do you want? So I remember it was like writing something on the size, size of a fag packet. It was a bit of paper. And I just scribbled down, altar down the front, arches, and I just do some arches, like more like just round arches going down either side, and the reading room at the back, and dividing room, just split it in half. So you had to double up as a yoga center, reading room. You could open it up if you wanted more yoga, close it up if it was just a few devotees doing studying. And then he designed it. What you see, that beautiful room which he's got there, that's what Mahavir then designed. He came up, I just gave him a basic idea, and then he elaborated.
It's a beautiful temple room, isn't it?
Huh?
Was it Gopi, you going to say something? Did you
As I was
install
going
Panchatat for when the temple's finished? Gopi is asking.
It was... Then as she was doing that, Gurumaj phoned me and says, they're making Panchatattva in Hungary, these bas reliefs, do we want one? I can't remember how much it was at that time, but knowing Gurumaj, it was really expensive. But
the Panchatattva in Swansea are so beautiful.
Yeah.
They're stunning.
And that was the mood. He was saying, what mood, because Vishwambharu, he painted them, and I said the mood was, because we was designing it, I said, use the colours of the temple, this is the mood, and it was like, they're in that sweet mood of, and the whole...
They're super sweet. And there's also, because there's the same Panchatattva up in Newcastle, right?
Newcastle had one, Leicester had one.
Chaitanya Vallabha, he was joking, he sent me a message the other day saying that they got the same Panchatattva, he thinks his in Newcastle, the ones in Newcastle are more beautiful, which he is just wrong, because they are so beautiful in Swansea. I've seen other, the same mould that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's only the same mould.
But the ones in Swansea are just special.
Differently. Yeah.
So special.
It's what you perceive, it's what you see, isn't it? The mood that they have.
I didn't notice, when I first started coming, I didn't notice Panchatattva or the altar for weeks and weeks and weeks. I don't know what it was in my head. I just didn't even see it there.
Didn't see it.
But I guess I wasn't qualified.
Lots of devotees have that experience. I remember going, you never see the deities. You see them, but you don't see them. You see them, but you're not seeing, because you see them, But as you chant, as you purify them, because you start to see with devotion, otherwise we don't. You first come.
Was it Prema that went up to pick them up?
He says it was, but you've never done. He said
went in a van or something, didn't they?
Yeah,
it was Prema. He said it was Prema. He said it was him.
Yeah. I can't remember. Where did they go? Where did he go? Did he go to Hungary to pick him up? I can't remember.
No. I thought it was...
It might have been up in Leicester.
I
think it was. Because they were having delivered there, and then we drove up to pick him up from there, something like that. But then I wanted gold leaf, and that's where they come in. And that's when the gold leaf, the minimum, and we're putting gold on them, and I was making them, we had that. Because it was less. That's just my mood. Less is more for me. It's more subtle colours. Something like the other I seen, they were more colourful. They're still beautiful, but it just, sometimes for me less is more, because the same as the colours.
Sometimes it can be a bit too.
You can be. It's too cluttered. You can be sometimes. That's why I say sometimes less is more, isn't it? Because you can see it. You appreciate.
Just their eye. I mean, they're similar to what. Who fashioned those? Was it Tarakshi then? Because they're very similar to the way that. Guru Maharaj is she paints those beautiful pictures.
I think it was Vishwambharu and Tarakshi, yeah.
Just so
but
beautiful.
That's the mood, their hands are outstretched, and in the mood of
He's really giving, more than you don't see many forms of Lord Chaitanya that are so both arms stretched. The rest of the Panchatattva for presenting Lord Chaitanya, and he's really
that's the mood.
Giving out, isn't he?
That's his mood. So that means, he's giving, and we got to take. So that's what they're giving. That means we are. To take, to receive, that means we got to put down our attachments. That's what we've got to do so that we can receive. If your hands are full, someone's trying to give you something, like I'm holding this pillow here in front, you can't see it, and I got a pillow. So for me to receive, I have to put the pillow down to receive if someone's giving. So we got attachments, means all the conceptions of who we are, all these upadhis, all these they call all these different designations, which is covered in our real identity. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm white, I'm religious, I'm non-religious, I'm a theist, I'm an atheist. It doesn't. These different concepts, which has nothing to do with who we are. So to take Lord Chaitanya's full mercy, we have to kind of put those conceptions down, and then we can receive it.
I guess just one. Might finish soon. Just one quick question: was it always called Govindas? Was that always in your head? Just naturally, you just thought Govindas?
Yeah, that was Prabhupada's. He would open Govindas, a reading room, restaurant, with prasadam served, for programs, and a reading room, library. So we're giving access to this philosophy. So it was always based. Everything we do is always based on what Srila Prabhupada wanted. And Gurumaharaj always quotes Prabhupada's reading rooms. You're saying these are reading rooms. The place, you've got prasadam. People can come and just discuss the philosophy. And if a meet and greet. It's just in a non-threatening way. It's not a temple. It's like you're walking into a restaurant, isn't it? You're creating an ambience where it's non-threatening. It's not a temple, and so it's just that people then the barriers naturally come down when they're feeling more relaxed.
I remember it was too good to be true. Like I remember going to the reading room and I'm allowed to just sit here and just read the books. You know what I mean? And Gopinath was really good as a front person.
Oh yeah.
Like he was really good as like. It's just amazing just to walk into a place where there's just devotees everywhere and you're just interacting with devotees and taking prasadam.
It was somebody when we first opened up. I can't remember. It was devotees, because devotees sometimes so oblivious to the surroundings. They were walking around with japa beads. His customers sitting there, and they're walking around chanting up and down like, "Whoa!" And I stopped and said, "You can't do that, and you're not doing that, because you're confusing people what they're walking into. You're not walking into a temple; they're walking into a restaurant. The temple is the chanting's upstairs. So we made that was the restaurant. That's what people were walking. They're coming in for a meal, and if that's all you want, that's all you get. And we're happy with that, because they were contributing, and by taking the prasadam, paying for it, they had to contribute." But if you're walking in and there's all these devotees with chanting, walking around with beads, and it's just too cultish, it's too weird then for most people to kind of comprehend. So that was always restaurant downstairs, temple room, and and facilities for more upstairs. Downstairs is more gentle. If they inquired, we were there to.
Okay, nice. Okay, maybe we'll do a bit more tomorrow, is it?
Because finish on this, that's when David reading was we hadn't quite opened, and he came and he said, "This is like Vaikuntha for me." Says this is ideal what he was kind of looking for, restaurant with a reading room, and a place to be Krishna conscious. And he gave a class. Where were we up in the uplands? We were at the ashram up in the uplands.
It'd be amazing if that class was recorded. You'd have to talk about that class.
Because as he was talking, because I was figuring, we got this place, and I was trying to figure in my head, how do I do it? What do we do with it? And then he gave a class, and it was just like lights going on in my head, ping, ping. He was giving me his vision, and he was like, yeah, that's exactly what he formulated then in my mind what I was to do. It was just, I had all these ideas, and it was like ping, ping. It was like and my mind was getting lit up like a Christmas tree, because as he was talking, it was just, okay, got it. That's what we should be doing. How to run it, how to do it, or what the best to do. Because like I said, we didn't know what we was doing. We were just going blindly opening the place, and I didn't know. There was no business plan. I hadn't thought it through. We just got a building, smashed it down, opening up a temple and restaurant without any figuring out how best to do it. And then David Reedham, I always remind him about that, tell him that class was instrumental in me formulating a strategy to what we was doing with Swansea, and now with Cardiff is based upon the same. It's a point of entry for people to come in. How people don't like walking into temples or churches where religion's declining rapidly. That's the idea behind restaurants. And is that it's in a non-threatening way. It's a point of entry. What I speak now in Cardiff, yoga centres, Ayurvedic medicine, he's just opening up all these different points of entry for people to kind of come in and get introduced to Krishna Conscious. Whether they want it or not, that's up to them. But at least we're creating a facility to give people Krishna Consciousness. And if you ask him why we're doing it, that's why we're doing it, because then that's how you get the Lord's mercy. Because we're creating that's Lord Chaitanya's mood, giving Krishna Consciousness. That's always been, that's our parampara. Then that's how you'll get their mercy, by trying to please them. And they will give. They will definitely give. Krishna will facilitate, both individually and collectively, to help us. We want to do something, even on the, don't have to be opening big temples. You just want to chant. You want to do something in your own home. Set up a little altar, whatever we're doing. Just create a little sacred space with you and your family or something, just to pray and chant and be with Krishna. He'll help you. He'll give you the facility. But it requires faith. You know, we have to have faith that Krishna will support us. Okay, I think we've rattled on enough. How long is that?
That's good.
Yeah, how long
You wait there. Well,
for?
How long is it so far, Gopi? Without stopping it? 35 minutes. Okay, great. So we'll carry on tomorrow.
Okay, Hare Krishna, everybody.
Everyone pick up a bit more. I want to start off a bit more about David Meat Marsh tomorrow, actually.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Nama Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Pachacharya Satarini Bhakti Vedanta Swami Vinamani Namah Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharini Sunyavari Pachacharya Satarini Namah Nityananda Bo Hari Bo